Welcome back, Wildcat fans, to another episode of the Wildcat Alley podcast. Alex Marcotullio, my boy Juice Thompson, ready to talk all things Northwestern basketball. First and foremost, shout out our guys at New Amendment for putting this on. Another great episode ahead. Looking forward to recapping Brown as well as Ohio State. And then we have some great conference games on the docket as well, with Illinois coming to Welsh Ryan on Wednesday, as well as the Cats bouting at Indiana over the weekend as well. So another tough slate of games coming up. But first and foremost, Juice, Happy New Year. And let's get right into it and talk about the Brown game.
My man, Happy New Year. I hope you had a good time, got to spend time with your wife and family. Hope that was good.
Yes, sir.
And so we starting off the new year. We're going back to that Brown game. It was a good win for us, but it was tough. It was definitely good to see you there.
That's right.
See you and your friend from back in the day. And then, my boys, they were really excited to see you. They get to watch all our old games. So being able to put a face with a name and everything was good for them. But for the Cats, offensively, we had some struggles. We always tip our hat on the defensive end. And I think we did a really good job in the second half, especially on, Lilly Jr., who can score.
Yeah.
And he did a really good job in the first half scoring. We went to halftime losing. And, we were able to buckle down a little bit in the second half, get some stops. But, I was a little worried, a game like that on paper, we were supposed to beat that team by double digits and, handle our business. But, it shows our veteranship. We were able to make some plays down the stretch. And, we had a few guys step up and play well. Congratulations to Chase Aldige reaching 1,000 points. That was huge. He made it on a nice one-on-one play. We had some other guys with career nights. Matthew Nicholson, 11 rebounds, 6 offensive. And that was kind of one of the differences of the game, with us out-rebounding them. We've had a lot of success this year rebounding the ball. And with those offensive rebounds that we had, that was able to give us extra possessions. So I think that was a little bit of the difference, as well as our defense. But offensively, the struggles we had, being stagnant, looks like guys were tired coming out. And, that's one of the things I've been worried about with our guards taking up so much responsibility defensively, stopping those perimeter players. Do we have enough in the tank to score the ball? Yeah. What are some things that you saw? What can we work on? Any players that played well? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Juice, you hit the nail on the head there. Everything you said completely checks out. I really wanted to see more of our depth shine through. And I was able to watch the game courtside, which is great. And then first and foremost, it was awesome seeing your family, your wife, your kids. Probably two of the cutest kids on the planet, I might add.
Oh man, appreciate it.
And then when they're showing me love, I had to shout them out on the pod too. So shout out the boys and young Steph Curry's in the making. So
there you go.
They asked me if I shot like Steph Curry. I said I tried to, but
I tell you, you've been shooting that long three for before Steph was.
That's right. So. That's right. But back to the game, I was able to watch courtside, versus Brown, and again we looked very connected defensively. I thought Brown runs some really difficult stuff. They play a little bit of small ball, so a little bit of like 4-guard action, and I thought we did a really good job in our help roles. Because there was a lot of scramble situations that we needed to tie up at halftime. We got caught switching when we weren't supposed to, or there was a little bit of a lack of communication in the first half, where the second half came around. It looked like they took a look at some of the things that they were doing, poorly in the first half, and really made that change, and were able to communicate better during the second half. So that was something that I saw firsthand on the floor that really shifted after halftime. But really, moving forward, it's going to be, can we score the ball, and do we have enough production out of the front line, right? We know that we're going to have a really guard-oriented output in terms of scoring, but, if we have some sort of off-shooting night, or we're not making a lot of threes, we're really going to have to get some inside presence and have somebody that we can throw the ball to inside, or just get easier baskets around the rim. So that was something that I really didn't see a lot of for Brown, and credit Brown again, right? They were very disciplined in their defense as well, and their scheme. So they forced us to take a lot of difficult shots, and potentially take a lot of tough twos that didn't fall for us. And then, you mark 4 of 21 from three, you're not going to win a lot of games. And that really turned into a carryover into Ohio State, which obviously wasn't the performance that you and I were hoping for, or the team was hoping for in the second Big Ten game. But a lot of things that we can learn from when we head into Ohio State and we start to break that film down. Overall, I just felt like Ohio State came out and smacked us in the mouth, right? And from there, when you build that big of a deficit early, that's really hard to come back from, especially if you're not knocking down outside shots. And then, somewhere that we've keyed in on, you and I, Juice, is the free throw line. At one point yesterday, we were 0 of 6 from the line, or 0 of 7 from the line. When you're trying to fight back into a game or stay close within a game, those are points that are going on the board potentially without the clock moving. And those are opportunities I feel like we missed out on. And I think we missed a lot of layups too. A lot of areas where we had offensive rebounds, we were putting it back up, and we were just missing layups and not capitalizing on those second and third opportunities. So I think if a few of those things go differently, we knock down a couple threes, the trajectory of that game is completely different. And as you could see, when down the stretch a little bit, when in the second half, when we started to make some shots, we did starting to tighten it up. It got to 14 or 13 at some point later in the half, but by then it was too late. Coming from your perspective, Juice, as someone that played 4 years in the conference and someone that played a lot of teams that were ranked, had highly skilled players that were, eventual pros, what are some of the things that you saw that we could have changed, that could have gone differently in order to change the outcome?
Yeah. To piggyback, pretty much off what you said at the beginning, they came out, smacked us in the mouth. Yeah. You talk about it, you want to protect home court, and you're playing against a really good opponent. You got to throw that first punch. And like you said, it's an uphill battle pretty much after you get off to a start like that. Playing against a good team like that, that's well coached, that moves the ball the way they move the ball. They're good on their rotations on the defensive end. And one of the main things I really enjoyed about Ohio State, which I really thought gave Northwestern a problem, was the way they moved the ball. It's hard to guard. It's tiring when you're constantly chasing the ball on the defensive end. And Ohio State did a great job of moving the ball side to side, inside, outside, getting open threes, getting layups. And, they pretty much bullied us in the paint. And it kind of looked like our guys were tired. And that kind of goes back to the Brown game when we were talking about our guards. Can they continue to guard at a high level and still be able to put the ball in the basket? And we know, we rely on Chase. We rely on Boo. One thing, I think we do shoot a lot of outside shots. I think at one point, it's like 12 minutes left in the first half, and we were 2 for 9 for 3. Then when it got to like 10 minutes left, we were like 2 for 11. Times like that, when that ball isn't falling, it's better to get, shots closer to the basket and try to get to that free throw line. Although, like you said, first half, we were 0 for 6 from the free throw line. But situations like that, ball's not falling, defense isn't working how it usually works. We got to try to find ways to get some easier shots, whether that's free throws, some duck ends. And even going back to that Brown game, I would personally like to see big Matthew Nicholson get a couple touches in the post. Even if that's not his main thing, just put some pressure on the big man. Make them, have to play defense in a different way. Because right now, the only thing the big men are doing on the opposing team, they're just showing out on our guards and ball screens. So I would like to see, a couple more touches inside. But ultimately, we got to get off to better starts. We have to be able to defend, those teams moving the ball side to side. And offensively, we have to get better shots. We got to kind of take a page out of Ohio State's book. Moving the ball side to side, that's tough to guard, especially with that long of a shot clock. Eventually, you're going to wear the guys down. Then you're going to find an open shot. And I think Ohio State did a great job of giving up good shots for great shots. Because you look up at the shot clock, somebody's open. Oh, one more pass or one more dribble then pass. They're getting a clean look, and they're knocking it down. So I think that was the difference. They had us chasing, playing catch up. You got to commend their effort and their fight, for not giving up. And, one of the main people like you've been high on, Brooke Barnheiser, his fight in the first half was something that stood out, getting all those rebounds, keeping plays alive, getting assists. That's the kind of fight and hustle that we need from everybody from the start. So
yeah, I thought he was Yeah, I thought he was a nice, a nice spark plug when he came in, and he hasn't had that much Big Ten experience, but like we've talked about, he has really made that transition and that growth to being a main rotation player. So I think we're going to expect a lot more out of him as we move forward in the season. But when it comes down to it, we can't have 6 points out of our front line, right? We missed a lot of easy baskets. Yeah, the injury to Hunger really hurts, right? We need more out of Titus. We need a lot more out of Robbie Barron, and we need Nicholson to score, right? We're not asking for 10 a game from each of them, but we're gonna need some times where Robbie scores 15 points, because he can extend that defense, he can knock down outside shots, but he's also versatile and he can get his shot off the dribble sometimes. So we're just gonna really need some more out of him, especially being a senior, as we're looking for those pickups later in the year. But something that I saw also offensively, and Juice, Northwestern runs some of this stuff with a little bit of a wrinkle that we ran, some Princeton stuff.
Like that
I think it's a little extended. I think we're getting pushed back too far away from the 3-point line and closer to half court on some of these sets, where I feel like we would be more efficient if we were in more of a scoring area, especially if there's a guard catching it at the top of the key. I know we're talking Princeton talk, but if it's snapped to the point and you're 10 feet off the 3-point line, there's really not an angle to play, with the weak side to throw it to that high post and run action off of that. So I'd like to see us get a little bit tighter with our sets, especially in our motion and Princeton stuff, where I think we could be a lot more effective using screens, rub screens, playing, over the top, getting some backdoor cuts, but also utilizing each other for handoff screens, things like that are Princeton staples that you and I used really fully to our advantage, where it really causes some confusion for the defense. So I'd like to see that really pick up in practice over the next couple of days, is focusing on that offensive execution where we can just get easier looks, right? We don't get a lot of easy layups. We don't get a lot of standstill threes in rhythm. So I'd like to see us utilize our sets and our offensive ability and reads and react type behavior in order to get some of those looks.
Yeah, and that's a perfect thing that you just said with us not getting so many standstill catch and shoot threes. I feel like not that often we see a lot of draw and kicks, or if we do get those catch and shoot opportunities, they're highly contested shots. I feel like we shoot a lot of quick 1-pass, 2-pass shots within the offense or in transition. We shoot a lot of shots quick. So I would also like to see, that adjustment to the offense that you mentioned. Starting closer, more in a scoring area to be more of a scoring threat. But also I would like to see them go through their sets with more tempo. Because if you remember, when we played with our Princeton, that first person starting that offense, whether you're passing and cutting through or you're swinging it to that other guard, that person to start the offense is sprinting. And you know how that's contagious. Once everyone on the team sees one person cut and sprint, that just picks it up. Yeah. Everybody's doing it. And from there, as you know, in practice, in Carmody with gobble, we getting backdoor just because you see them moving so fast, everything's crazy, side to side. Okay, now we got that wide open layup. Yeah. So that was a great point. I would like to see them, continue to do that, or, add that to their offense. Start closer, move with more rhythm. And, now we got that with the offense. Is there anything that you saw with any players that stood out that you think is good? I know we talked about Brooks, but for me, I like the fact that Julian Roper made 2 threes off the dribble. I mean, I know
like his confidence with the ball in his hand. Like he's trying to, for lack of better terms, get his sometimes, but he's in rhythm. He has put in a nice little between the legs step back move that has gotten him some freeness. And people respect his driving ability, his athleticism. So if he's going to be able to, enhance his arsenal off the dribble with incorporating some step backs and some pull-up jumpers, I think that's going to be another weapon for us moving forward. And I think, he's just getting back to being healthy. He had that shoulder issue. He had some sickness earlier in the year. So I'm going to look for him to play 20, 25 minutes a game moving forward, just because of his versatility and the energy he brings on both ends.
Right. And, like you said, with that, he made those threes. That should gain, give him more confidence. You should see more increased role with more minutes. But, as a player, you understand what it's like. You're battling back. It's kind of a double-digit lead for the other team. So, shots fall. The defense intensity isn't, like it is in the first half. But from a confidence standpoint, I really think that was good for Roper. And you hit it right on the head by saying more minutes and more opportunities and him adding that step back. So I think all in all, that's a really good thing for him, even though they didn't get the win that they wanted. But just from that confidence standpoint as a player, I think it was good for him to see the ball go through the net a couple times.
Yeah, and just sensing him, I feel like he's one of those guys that, thrives on competition, right? So as the conference progresses and as we start to get into these more intense games that involve a lot of focus and energy and attention to detail, I think he's going to be a really big component for our team moving forward. Obviously, when we beat Michigan State on the road at Breslin, he was a huge catalyst in that game, made some great plays, downhill drives where he's getting to the basket and ones, and then always defensively getting his hands on balls, deflecting things, and making sure that he's a catalyst on that end as well. So looking for a lot out of him. I think, we're going to have to expect him to pick up the load, scoring the ball a little bit, especially if Boo, Ty, and Chase are struggling offensively, because obviously we're going to need them to carry the load when it comes to shooting at a high volume and in terms of making shots as well. We obviously need them to be more consistent.
Definitely. So with that, that's a great recap on those games. And now we got some more big games coming up. This Big Ten conference slate is not easy.
No breaks.
Starting off, and you know how it is. Even though, you might have had a tough loss to Ohio State, a couple days, we're right back at it with Illinois coming in. What are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about this game? Any players to watch? How are you feeling after seeing that Ohio State game?
Again, you said it perfectly. It's every game's an opportunity, right? You gotta flush that last game. Obviously, take a look at the film, learn, take that constructive criticism that the coaching staff can provide to you. What can you do better? What did you do well? And then apply that to this next game, right? We have a rivalry game coming up, in-state opponent with Illinois, yes. And they're going to be hungry, right? They're 0-2 in conference. They've gotten off to a little bit of a slow start, and they've gone on a little bit of a skid here as of late, losing to Missouri, losing, a couple tight games as well. So this is going to be a huge game for them. It could be a nice road win for Illinois. Obviously, the Cats want to protect home court, so I think that's going to be really important. Welsh Ryan's going to be rocking. But in terms of players I'm looking out for, obviously we've talked about him before on the pod, but Terrence Shannon Jr., just a baller, right? Averaging 17 and a half a game, has a lot of experience coming from a high-level program at Texas Tech. I thought that was a tremendous get in the portal by Brad Underwood and staff, as well as Michael Meyer. I know I'm talking about two transfers, but former national championship winner with Baylor, a guy that has a ton of experience playing high-level basketball, and a stretch four who I think could be a difficult matchup for us. Those two guys, I think body-wise, I think we're going to be, and size-wise, are going to be difficult matchups for us. And then they have a slew of athleticism across the front line, and they crash the glass hard. They play hard, and are well coached. So I think they're going to be hungry. They're going to be looking to take out these last couple losses on the Cats. But can we respond? Can we get off to a good start? And if Illinois makes shots early, especially a couple threes, can we respond and can we stay in the game enough to keep it close by halftime? And then, let's win the second half and let's leave with a victory here at home. Those are my keys. Yeah. What about you? You played in 8 rivalry games, probably a couple more. Yeah, maybe 8 against Illinois. Yeah. I don't know if we missed them a couple times, but what were some of the things that you looked out for in this rivalry game? Obviously, I know you played a lot of guys in AAU, a lot of guys from in-state. So heading into a game like Illinois, what are some of the things that you as a hometown kid would look for?
So, pretty much the atmosphere. It's kind of similar to when we talked about, Northwestern playing against DePaul, UIC. You want to protect and show that you're Chicago's Big Ten team. And even though University of Illinois is not in Chicago, is still an in-state rival. So this is a big game. So, it's going to be a lot of orange and blue in the stands, not just purple. So that atmosphere was always something to look forward to. And then also, you just know the history of, Illinois, especially after that run that they had when they had the three guards, Darren Williams, D. Brown, Luther Head. So you just get up for those kind of games. You know that they're well coached. They got some great guards and even players on the inside. So with that, the atmosphere is going to be good. But I think our keys to the game is getting off to a great start, on both sides of the court and, protecting that paint. They got the big guy, Danja. And, the coach is high on him. He just had his first start, had 22 points. And in one of the press conferences, the coach was saying he's been having really great practices where he's just dominating. And he compared him to Kofi Cockburn. So, that's a big comparison. So that scares me, with our front court, being thin. And on top of that, they got guards that can score. Terrence Shannon Jr., he went to my high school. So, I've always been high on him. And that goes back to my point of, do the Cats have enough in them? I'm sure Chase is going to take that matchup, or maybe Ty Berry. Do they have enough in the tank to guard, perennial scorers like this who can score at will from three levels, at the basket, mid-range, three-pointers, and still be able to produce on the offensive end? Personally, I would like to see more of maybe Ty Berry or Julian Roper take on that bigger defensive role, just because, Chase
spare
and
him a
Blue
little bit.
Yeah. Just, even if it's not the whole game, just give Chase a few minutes of a break so he can focus on offense, because we need it. And, if you have to get stops to win the game, but also we still got to be able to put the ball in the basket. So I would like to see some other guards, take on bigger defensive roles, just so Chase has more of an opportunity to focus a little bit more on the offensive end, but not completely go away from defense, because he's been playing at an all Big Ten defensive level. So I'm excited to see that. And then I believe it's Sincere Harris. He's another guy that, got his first start. He's young, and he's kind of like that Swiss Army knife guy. He can score it a little bit, and he's glued in. He's locked in on the defensive end. So that can be
three or four of those types of guys, right? Like,
yeah.
A lot of those guys, 6'8", 6'9", versatile, can step out and shoot it. Can guard multiple positions, which I feel like is, a staple of Brad Underwood's philosophy and scheme. What I think Illinois may be lacking is a true point guard, right? So This goes back to, can we maybe switch up our defense a little bit, keep them off balance? And I think they're susceptible to turn the ball over at times. They can get a little erratic if, they're pressured. So maybe utilize our backcourt depth a little bit. I know we've talked about, some of the lack of depth on our front court, but maybe set up a little box zone press, back to man, or back to a 2-3, just on some occasions, like after free throws or something like that, to really keep them off balance and maybe slow Illinois down a little bit, or even just to take some time off the shot clock and not let them get into their sets quickly and efficiently.
There you go. Those are really good points. And speaking with the press, I feel like it was the last game they played, before the new year, Illinois. They usually press, and from what I read and heard in the press conference, they went away from their traditional press that they've been running to kind of, protect the big guy, Dane. And from that, they said he excelled in the protect defense that they played on the pick and roll. So that would be interesting to see if they're going to, go back to the press that they use, or if they're going to kind of switch up their defensive schemes with us, coming in with this big game, knowing we have guards that can come off and shoot that pull up as well as get downhill. So that would be interesting to see. And I agree with your point. I think we should throw out different defenses just to change the rhythm, change the tempo, give them different looks. Yeah. And I really like that idea of the press to kind of slow things down just so they don't have that full shot clock to shoot.
Yeah, and I hope our guards attack the hips of the bigs that could potentially be hedging out hard. I think, it's been a huge point of emphasis that I've seen so far in terms of officiating is not allowing the big guys to really use their hips at all. Even if it's just the slightest little edge out, you really have to be square to the ball this year as a big hedging out. So hopefully taking advantage of that emphasis with officiating could be a way to get them in foul trouble, maybe switch up their lineups, and maybe not have that dominant presence inside that could potentially give us some matchup problems.
There you go. And as well as with that, like we talked about previously, let's throw the ball inside a few times.
Yeah.
Make them guard a few
Even
different
if
ways.
it's
Who
not
knows?
shooting, even if the
Yeah,
bigs aren't
even
shooting
if
the
it's
ball,
not.
right?
Yes. Just, pound it in there. Make them guard, defend, maybe tire them out. Who knows? You might even draw a foul.
Right.
And from that, then you bring them out to the perimeter on those ball screens. Who knows what can happen? So think, offensively and defensively, the Cats, we should try to mix up a few things and throw some new looks at them so we can, protect home court and get back in the win column in the conference play.
For sure. I definitely think it's possible. Again, like I said, I think Illinois is going to be hungry, but I think we're going to be as well. We have to be. We have to come into the game with a new focus, a new intensity, and understand that it's a new game, right? 1 game season right now. Attack the game as one. Win or lose, we move on to the next one too. But obviously, we'd love that dub. But I really want to see us come out with more fire, more passion and intensity, and really build up that crowd so that we can get behind them and propel them to victory.
Yeah, and students should be back or close to being back.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So that should definitely help over the next couple of weeks.
Hell, so after that, we're going to transition into Indiana.
Indiana, Juice, you had some success in Indiana.
In Indiana, at Indiana, when we played at Conseco Fieldhouse in the Big Ten Conference Tournament.
That too.
Playing against Indiana, we've had some success in our day.
I remember you had an unbelievable first half. This was my sophomore year. I think your senior year. You had an unbelievable first half at Indiana. Hit an and 1-3 after hitting like 2 in a row. You gave me some assists. I know that. And, we came out and hit him in the mouth, but it ended up being a really tough game down the stretch. But I remember you came off like thumbs up or something like that, hit a sweet little pull-up jumper coming to your left, and then knocked down some big free throws down the stretch. So coming from someone who's had success in Assembly Hall, obviously very difficult place to play, very difficult opponent, top 15, top 20 opponent, with a lot of experience and skill set. Coming into a game that they're looking to win, and are probably favored by a decent amount to win. What are some keys for you, and what did you look for as a player going into that tough environment, especially with someone with the ball in their hands a lot, being a point guard and a leader on the floor?
Yeah. So going into that, you just know certain arenas you're going to go into, it's going to be pretty much sold out. They're going to have all the colors of that school, and it's going to be loud.
Hostile.
So, as a team, you really have to be locked into the team's, the coach's staff's game plan. And while you're on the court, you really have to communicate because a coach might be calling out a play, a player on the court might say something, but you really can't hear. You can attest to it. You know how loud it is. So, those games, you just kind of have to be a little bit more focused than usual. And you really have to be, focused on what the coach is saying because, as a point guard on the court, you kind of like the coach on the court as well. So messages that coach wanted to get relayed, you would have to get into huddles during free throws. Or if it's a timeout, you got to run to somebody and tell them one thing. But, mainly for me, it was just the atmosphere. And then going there is, they had shooters rims. Yeah. So I always look forward to it. Just shooting rounds were always fun. And then playing against a team like this, tough schedule, well coached, well prepared. They got a beast on the inside, who flirted with the NBA a little bit. It's always exciting to go play those games, but we have to remember it's just one game. Like you said, it's a 1-game season. It's not like it's a 7-game series or anything. We're more than capable. We can go in there and beat them, and we have to believe. So I hope that Coach Collins' message to the team is the same as when they went to Michigan State. If you don't think we can win, let's not get on this bus. Let's not get on this plane. You got to come in with that mindset and attitude, knowing, we prepare the same way they do, and we're more than capable. So I would like to just see them come out with that energy, that defense from the beginning. And then, shooters rim. So we've had success there, and I know they're going to have success. So with that, what are some keys or things that you look forward to when you played there? And we'll get into the X's and O's and players in a little bit, but what did you look for going there?
Embracing the moment, right? You're stepping into a place with rich history. I always embrace those games, right? Like crowd was always on you. They had information about you that you may not even have knew they had. So like stuff like that, you have to embrace and really harness that to to make yourself better and prove to yourself, prove to the fans out there that, hey, like whatever you're saying about me, you could read off my stats, whatever. You can read off my girlfriend, like whatever, right? It's even worse now, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
So like embrace that stuff and harness it into playing a better game. I always loved getting up for those games and always felt like I had like an extra step and an extra bit of energy, but at the same time, just remaining focused. And I think for this Indiana game coming up, I think it's a huge scouting report game. I think these guys have a lot of tendencies. Trace Jackson Davis specifically loves to go left, right? He's a right shoulder player, loves to go left, but he's so athletic he can get away with it. But I think if you take some of that away and take away his second jump, you can limit him a little bit. And you can put him on the foul line. He's shooting under 70% right now from the season. And, obviously, they're a little beat up right now. You have Xavier Johnson, their number one point guard, who's been out with a foot injury. Trace Jackson Davis has been out over the last few games as well. That's been undisclosed, but, we'll see if they're back for their Iowa game coming up. If not, and if they win that game, they could potentially be sitting against the Cats. But nonetheless, like I said, it's a big scouting report game. I think a lot of these Indiana players have tendencies and do things well. So if we could take that one thing away, like Miller Kopp, got to run him off the three-point line. Trey Galloway, you can't let him get in the lane. He's got a great floater. He's really crafty with the ball and can make really good decisions. He's a good passer. So a lot of things that we can do that we can hopefully take away, against their personnel.
Yeah. And, you just brought him up, Miller Kopp. He was a former Northwestern player. Yeah. Games like this, from my experience, you have to watch out for players like that. They always come in those games with a little chip on their shoulder, just extra motivation. I'm sure you felt that way when you would go back home and play at Michigan State. So you know how it is. You play against your former team or a team that, once recruited you or you wanted to go there. So, you can kind of expect him to be laser focused and really coming out trying to shoot the ball and show Northwestern that he has improved or, he's expanded his game. It's not just that traditional, that catch and shoot. He can put it on the floor, mix it up, get in the paint, rebound. And another player, Jalen Hood-Schifino, he's really stepped up since the injury of, Xavier Johnson. I think his last four, he's averaging maybe 15 and 4. So I think he's stepped up and benefited, from the extra opportunities that he's getting. But, you mentioned they've been dealing with some other injuries as well. We don't know about, Tracy Jackson, if he's going to play against Iowa, against us. So it could be a situation where we might be going in to play them at the right time. If they win against Iowa, then, they're coming home. There's some talks that Indiana isn't going to lose a game at home in conference. But, I'm excited that the Cats get to go there first and, get our turn at it. Iowa, it could be the right time that the Cats are playing them. They have some injuries. They're going to play, at Iowa. Then they're coming home. A lot of people are talking that Indiana isn't going to lose a game at home in the Big Ten conference season.
When's the last time that's happened, Juice?
Never. I disagree. Northwestern is coming in there, in a few days. So, I think, we're going to have to change that conversation.
That could end before the first week. That could end before the first week of this Big Ten season.
I'm hanging my hat that it is going to end. I got a lot of confidence and faith in the Cats, especially after the success that you and I have had there, shooting the ball, getting wins. I believe that's going to carry over. And, it'd be nice to see, eventually we'll probably get Indiana again in that Big Ten conference tournament where, personally, I've had success against them there as well.
Yes, you have.
So I'll be excited to see how this game goes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I think it's going to be a really good game, Juice. And, like I said, embrace the environment, talk your shit, right? Like, be there, get into it with the fans, whatever, shush the crowd, whatever, but something that's going to keep the team hype. I think that's something that's been lacking, right? Where's our energy? Where's our emotion? And I think a game like that at Assembly Hall can really spark that. But doing it in a controlled way, right? Making sure it's for your teammates. It's going to allow them to rally around you or rally around each other to really get that extra level, to get that extra step up and heighten that focus and bring us to victory. So really looking forward to the slate of games coming up, Juice. I'll definitely see you in Welsh Ryan on Wednesday.
Yes. Big game coming up. And then we right on the road to change the narrative of Indiana winning all their home games in the Big Ten Conference season.
That's right.
Yeah. So appreciate it. Wildcat fans, thanks for tuning in. You can catch Wildcat Alley on all your social media platforms. New amendment. Appreciate you guys. Good seeing you, Marcotullio.
Yes, sir, Juice. Shout out Juice Hoops.
Yes, sir. Get me on there.
Yeah, shout out Juice Hoops.
Beyond the Big Ten is a network of podcasts that aims to be your go-to resource for all things Big Ten. We cover the entire conference with shows hosted by ex-players and athletic alumni, aiming to be your go-to source of information and entertainment for your favorite team. Hosted by ex-Big Ten players, media, and insiders, our podcasts are focused on giving diehard fans and those alums an inside scoop about the teams and people that make the Big Ten Conference one of the most watched and most talked about conferences in sports. We're excited to talk Big Ten basketball with you wherever you may be. Subscribe now.